Live from historic Dunn Field in Elmira, New York, it's once again time for Elmira Pioneers baseball. As tonight your Pios, rolling into the ball game 1-5 in their last 6, will look to start off the second half of the season with a bang as they get set to welcome the Auburn Doubledays. Good evening, everybody. For Pioneers Pregame Live, I'm Farrell Hudson. We'll have all your pregame coverage and all your live coverage this evening as the Pios take on Auburn for already the 6th time this season. It's been a bit of a tough go-round for the Pioneers against Auburn in the opening 5 ball games, to say the least. A 1-4 record overall for Elmira, 0-3 at Falcon Park, 1-1 here against Auburn. The first win coming back on June 10th. It was the Pioneers' first win of the season. If you remember, Elmira started off 0-3. They had the 2 games that were rained out, so a bit of adversity hit early on, and then the Pioneers were able to get their season rolling. That's what they'll look to do now as they begin the second half of the season tonight, and it's all not negative for the Pioneers. They've still been getting some immense contributions from up and down the lineup. The bullpen has been solid so far for Elmira this season. You look at just about halfway through the regular season, and TJ Gramesti, well over a .430 batting average. We keep mentioning him, but that's how good he's quite frankly been. 30 hits for the Pioneers. Then you look on the pitching side of things, you have Garrett Rochon taking the ball for the Pioneers tonight. Rochon's been phenomenal, especially in relief situations, and there could be potentially a little bit of concern with, hey, you have another reliever starting the ball game, because you go back to the past couple of times that a reliever has started. Nolan Terwilliger against a very potent Auburn Doubledays offense last Wednesday at Falcon Park, and he only lasted 3 innings of work. You look at Bryce Mashanik, he had a bit of a tough first inning last night, but for Bryce, he really settled in nicely after that, as he still collected 5 strikeouts, 5 earned runs on 4 hits and 4 walks. Pioneers enter tonight's ball game on the outside looking in of the playoffs, and maybe that's more where they'd want to be right now. A bit of a rude awakening at the middle of the season, but by rude awakening, I still only mean a 12-11 record. They've lost 2 in a row. As you take a look at the PGCBL West Division standings, the Batavia Muck Dogs in first place at 16-8. They've won 4 in a row, and they're 7-3 in their last 10. The Niagara Falls Americans tied for the lead with Batavia in first place at 16-8. They've won 2 in a row, 8-2 in their last 10, including the back end of the doubleheader victory against the Pioneers, 7-6 from Sal Magley Stadium this past Sunday. Auburn in third place. We know how strong they can be offensively. They possessed it against the Pioneers, and primarily every game they've played Elmira this season. The least amount of runs they scored in a 7-9 inning ball game against Elmira this year came 5 runs. That was in the 7-5 Pioneer victory right here from Dunfield back on June 10th. The Jamestown Tarpskunks at 14-10 in fourth place. They've won 4 in a row now, 7-3 in their last 10. That's been one of the most streaky teams, but trending up in the positive direction. Then you have your Elmira Pioneers in 5th place, 12-11, 3.5 back. They've lost 2 in a row, 4 wins in their last 10. The Newark Pilots dead even at 10-10-1. Pioneers will take on the Pilots in a doubleheader tomorrow afternoon on the 4th of July from Colburn Park, and we hope that you'll join us for all our live coverage, beginning with Pioneers Pregame Live at 3:45. First pitch of Game 1 at 4 o'clock. Then we'll have your extended coverage into Game 2, and then Saturday night, the Newark Pilots travel here to Dunn Field. Elmira 3-0 against Newark on the season. Then you have 7th place Geneva at 6-17-1, 9.5 games back of first place Batavia. They've won 1 in a row, 5 wins in their last 10 ball games, including a tie. And then the Niagara Ironbacks sit in dead last, 3-20-0, 12.5 games back. They've lost 4 in a row, 1-9 in their last 10. The Ironbacks will make their lone trip to the soaring capital of the world when they visit the Pioneers on Sunday, July 13th for a doubleheader. So it's been a bit of a tough start for the Pioneers, but the good news for Elmira is through all of that, only 5.65 Ks per 9. So the K per 9 ratio for the Pioneers, the strongest in the PGCBL. They've struck out the least with 130. That's definitely been a point of emphasis, not striking out. When we were going into the beginning of this season, Coach Drum was talking with me, and he mentioned that Cooper Smith is one of our most reliable players. Yes, not only because he's been here 3 years and he's a returner, the familiarity, just having a career year at Tufts and now the George Mason commit, donning a lot of time in the outfield since he's returned from his hand injury, batting well over 300. But it's the fact that he can put together such a consistent at-bat is what Coach Drum was talking to me about. He said that, I love the way that he works counts, and he can get about 120 at-bats in a given summer, and he may only strike out 5 to 8 times. Granted, the slug percentage is down a tad bit for Cooper Smith and the entire Pioneers team in a nutshell. Only 32 of the 120 extra base hits have come 32 out of the 120 hits have been extra base hits for the Pioneers. I want to correct myself, as Coach Drum was mentioning, only roughly at about a 20% clip. He said, hey, we don't hit for power, and that's especially why he's putting such emphasis on our pitchers have to start commanding the strike zone better. He mentioned that in the pregame availability today, and he said, we have to understand our strengths and weaknesses of the ball club as we enter the second half. He said, I don't want to necessarily pin it on an effort thing, but in the same breath, too, you have to know where your strengths are, and you have to play to those advantages. He felt as if maybe the Pioneers have gotten altered off that course lately, but offensively it doesn't seem like they're still struggling for the most part. He mentioned Michael Palmer and his contribution, a 2-run single in the top of the third last night against Auburn. As tonight for the Pioneers, they'll roll out a similar lineup. You'll have Michael Palmer batting cleanup at first base. Michael Palmer, only one of 2 Pioneers on the season with a home run, and that came in the bottom of the first inning in the 7-0 win, or the 7-0 lead at the end of the first inning against Auburn. What ended up being a 15-11 victory for the Doubledays over the Pioneers right here from Dunn Field just 2 Wednesday nights ago. So Pioneers will only see Auburn 2 more times. It'll be a doubleheader just like last night and tonight. You'll have, or back-to-back days, shall I say, you'll have the Wednesday game July 16th at Falcon Park in Auburn, and you'll have then here at Dunn Field the 6:30 p.m. first pitch on Thursday, July 17th. Why is that important? Well, the Pioneers' biggest kryptonite has been Auburn, despite the Batavia Muck Dogs, and the big issue that surrounds the Pioneers when they play the Doubledays is against the Muck Dogs there was the 15-walk game. It was the back end of the doubleheader when Batavia took the victory. You don't want to pin or blame any excuses, but when the Pioneers traveled for their first road game of the season to Batavia this year, you had a Muck Dogs team with a day of rest. Pioneers got their start off at home this year against Jamestown, lost 7-4, and you knew the Muck Dogs were going to be out for blood after last year's PGCBL West Division Championship game in which the Pioneers stormed back after being down 2-0 in the top of the 4th inning. There's the rain delay. They came back the next day and won it 6-3 to advance to that 3-game set with the Amsterdam Mohawks, one in which they eventually ended up losing in 2 ball games. So that's the status right now where the Pioneers stand, still 12-1, and all things or 12-11, shall I say? Excuse me. And all things considered, they started off 2-4 in their opening 6 ball games. Since then, 10-7 in their last 17. We've seen the Pioneers be able to streak, and they play at home really well. And Coach Drum mentioned the atmosphere of the fans tonight at Dunn Field, playing what he hopes to be a very big role for the Pioneers because they have beforehand. It's a nice crowd. 4th of July weekend beginning for a lot of folks here in the Elmira area. School's out, as we were just walking the concourse a couple of minutes before the pregame, and you had a couple bands playing, a lot of fans filing in early. Overall, a very good atmosphere on a warm Thursday evening as some rain was in the area, but it cooled off, and the weather going down to a nice considerable 72 degrees at the first pitch of tonight's ball game. Let's take a look at the Pioneers' upcoming schedule. As we mentioned, tonight the Auburn Doubledays in town. Tomorrow a doubleheader at the Newark Pilots, then at home versus Newark on Saturday, and then the Pioneers travel to Geneva to wrap up their weekend against the Red Wings on Sunday for a 5:30 p.m. first pitch from Sal Maloney Field at McDonough Park. Once again, we'll have all your coverage here on the Elmira Pioneers Baseball Network. So it's been a busy stretch to stay the least for the Pioneers, as Andy Drum was talking earlier, and he spoke to me on his pregame availability. Let's take a look at what Drum had to say on the latest about the Elmira Pioneers.
I'm pleased to be joined on Pioneers Pregame Live by the manager of your Elmira Pioneers and Andy Drum ahead of tonight's ball game versus the Auburn Doubledays. Coach, a great outing for Garrett last time against the Geneva Red Wings on Friday night. What are you looking to see from Roshan as he makes the start tonight?
Garrett's always a competitor. He comes out ready to compete every single night. You know he's going to pound the strike zone, attack the hitters early, so we expect big things out of Garrett tonight as well.
How impressive in terms of maturity and the leaps has Garrett taken from year 1 to year 2?
He's taken huge leaps, actually. Like, he was a dog for us last year. You know he's going to go out and compete every single game, but he's really become a leader this year. He's trying to set the tone for all the rest of the starting pitchers.
And it seemed as if his last appearance he went very fastball heavy versus Geneva. Do you look to see him replicate a little bit of that tonight, or going with a bit of a different pitch repertoire making the start?
I think he'll mix things up against this team. Auburn likes to kind of just slap the ball around the park, steal bases, and that's their style of play. So I think he's going to mix it up a little bit, keep these hitters off balance all night.
And you mentioned the stolen bases there. What are you looking to do best tonight to control Auburn, which has been a very potent offense against you guys so far this year?
Big thing is we got to mix in a slide step every once in a while. Slide step, mix up our looks on the mound. They steal all the time. They get a runner out first. It doesn't matter. 0-0 count, 2-0, they're stealing bases. So we got to do our best to minimize the damage and hold that runner out first.
On the positive side, you guys have struck out less than 6 times per every 9 innings in the opening 23 ball games this season. What does that attribute to offensively for you guys?
We have really good bat-to-ball skills on this team. Big thing I've been preaching today during batting practice was we need to focus on line drive approach. We only have 32 extra base hits out of 177 hits, which is 18%, which is terrible at this point. So we don't have the guys that are going to drive the ball around the park and hit doubles and triples, except a couple guys. So we got to stick to our approach, slap the ball around, steal bases, bunt, move guys over, and manufacture runs any way possible.
Accounting for those 32 extra base hits, a good percentage of them, about 60%, are the trio of John Simmons, Aiden Grabowski, and TJ Gurmesty. How much of a spark plug are those three to your lineup as we enter the second half?
Those guys have been great. I know John's been a little cold the last week. He had a really good BP today. Michael Palmer stepped up. He's been a great 4-hitter for us this last 4 or 5 games. Finds ways to hit the ball hard with runners in scoring position. 3 sack flies on Sunday. So Michael's been a big part of the middle of the lineup.
Do you find that to be a bit of a tough decision? You have a great defensive first baseman in Brooks Hicken, but also a power hitter in Palmer?
Yeah, it's tough. Palmer's played a pretty good defensive first base as well this year, but it's just so tough to keep his bat out of the lineup right now. Everything he hits seems to be barreled up.
In terms of offensive production in the last 18 summers of Pioneers baseball, 60 hits leading the way in an individual season record. Do you think TJ Gurmesty could eclipse that, potentially already at 30?
Yeah, he's got a shot, and the crazy thing with those other records too is those were during 50 and 52 game seasons, so TJ's doing it with a shorter season. Everything he hits seems to be barreled up. He doesn't miss hit the ball very often. Just has a really good approach at the plate too. Keeps his barrel in the zone a long time.
You mentioned earlier today you were a little bit bothered by this losing streak. What's bothering you as opposed to maybe losing streaks earlier this season, or compared to when you guys were winning all those ball games a couple weeks ago?
It's more or less just the way that we're losing. We're not competing. We're not playing with heart and pride. And we preached that to him in the clubhouse last night after the game. Like, we got to start playing with some heart. This getting mercy ruled 4 times over the last week and a half, it's not going to work. There's too much talent on this team to be losing games the way that we are. So we got to get back to playing our style of baseball, being gritty, being some dogs out there, and manufacture runs.
Do you think the home atmosphere of Dunn Field on a fireworks night like tonight could really help propel the team?
Oh, I think so. I know our record at home. I think we're 8-4 right now. So we seem to play really well at home. Hopefully the crowd will fire us up and these boys will go out there and put on a good show.
In terms of the pitching staff, where do you evaluate and assess this team as opposed to where they stood maybe halfway through last summer?
The biggest issue I have with the pitching staff right now is those big innings. Like, when we have a bad inning, it's not 1, 2, 3. It ends up being 5, 6, 7 runs. And with the way that we're hitting the ball right now, we're not driving the ball into the gaps. So it's tough for us to come back when we're down 5, 6, 7 runs. We have to try and chip away one at a time, and it's so tough to come back when we give up a 5 spot in the first inning.
You mentioned the big innings. Do you think that's more mental or physical right now?
I think it's a more mental thing at this point. Like, we just got to think, like last night, we had bases loaded, 1 out. It's like, just minimize the damage. Try and get a ground ball into a double play, get a strikeout, just compete. But we can't keep walking guys and giving up free runs. I think 8 guys walked last night, 6 of them scored. So it's just too many free base runners that are scoring.
Offensively, what are some of the holes that you look to address beginning in tonight's ball game? Is it the extra base hits or maybe better plate approaches?
The big thing is better plate approach with a runner in scoring position. A couple times last night we had bases loaded, or runner on third, runner on second with less than 1 out, and we're just not getting the guys in. So, especially some of these one-pitch at-bats, we come up with a runner in scoring position, 1 pitch, fly out to the shortstop, or roll over to the third baseman. So maybe being a little bit more patient at the plate when we have runners in scoring position, trying to find a good pitch that we can put a barrel on and hit it hard.
Coach, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
So there it is, Andy Drum on the pregame availability today. Always kind in talking to me despite the losing and winning streaks. So the Pioneers have had their ups, they've had their downs, but they're ready for the ball game tonight. That'll do it for our abbreviated edition of Pioneers Pregame Live, and stay with us here on the Elmira Pioneers Baseball Network as we'll take a short timeout and come back in just about 15 minutes with lineups, first pitch, and baseball tonight between your Elmira Pioneers and the Auburn Doubledays.